Hi, everybody. Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Welcome to Sheen Talk. I'm Kendell Lenice. I'm a transformational life coach and you're in the host for
Well,
today.
thank you for having me.
I'm trying to, if you don't mind, I'm trying to just get everything. I just got off of an interview, so now I'm back on it. I'm so excited. I'm glad that I made it on time. You know how you try to rush and do
Oh,
this? Because,
absolutely. It's my
yes,
everyday.
you look
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you.
You
So do
are welcome.
you.
Thank you. So I want to make sure can you say your name? I want to make sure I say it correctly.
Yeah, Malynda Hale.
Okay, that's what I thought. The why I was like, let me make sure because you know how we do.
Yes, yeah.
Sometimes it could look like one thing,
Yeah. That's on
and
my mind,
then
so.
another. But it's amazing. I'm glad to speak with you. You are an activist and a producer and a believer. I love that you have that
Yes. I'm
in
a
there.
multi hyphenate. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
how has your day been going? How have you been doing during COVID? I want to ask that first.
Yeah, I've been doing really well. I have been involved in a lot of projects. My background is actually as a singer. That's what I started
Hmm.
doing music,
Oh, wow.
and in the last year and a half or so, I've been getting more into creating and producing
Hmm.
and doing projects like that. So, the pandemic actually gave me a lot of time to really focus on creating new projects and
Yeah.
producing new projects because one, you had to figure out what you were doing while you were stuck at home. So
Yeah.
it allowed me to really bring out more of my creative side with not just music, but with figuring out how to put a spotlight on issues that are really important to me. So that's actually been a blessing throughout the pandemic. I also had a baby during the pandemic. So
Oh,
geez,
did
yeah, I
you?
did. I did. Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you
What did you
so much.
have?
I had a baby girl in March.
Oh, is this your
Yeah, it
first?
is my first. It is my first. Yep.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
So how was
you.
that? Having a baby during a global pandemic?
It was not as challenging as I thought it was going to be, to be honest. My husband and I were both very, very busy. He's an entertainment attorney, so in typical normal world, we wouldn't have spent as much time with her as
Yeah.
we got to. So I actually view that as a blessing, being able to be home with her and see her grow over the last year and a half. And my parents live around the corner from us, so they've been able to spend a lot of time with them as well. So with her as well. So it's actually been great. I've really enjoyed this, and it's been a blessing.
You know what? First of all, as everyone says, children are a blessing. I have
Hmm.
two children in my 20s, and I
Oh,
love the fact, and it's so funny because during the pandemic, so many people were having children. I guess because
yes,
in 2020, it
yes.
was, it was other stuff to do
Yeah,
in the house.
absolutely,
So all of
absolutely.
these beautiful pandemic children have come in 2021 and in
Yeah.
late 20. But I just want to tell people about you. So Malynda is a multifaceted, talented actress, singer, songwriter, director, podcast host, activist, and mom based in Los Angeles, California. She utilizes her voice and social media presence to affect change with social justice, female empowerment, LGBTQ rights, veganism, and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
You are doing a lot. Let's just say. Let's just say. But so tell me what inspires you to, and we're going to get into the individual items that that you are passionate about,
Hmm.
but where do you get the drive from to put your hand in this and that? Has that always been you? Have you always been multifaceted?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Leo. I don't know if anybody
Hmm.
follows zodiac signs, but
Yes.
I'm very much
A
so just
boss.
yes, exactly. I'm a girl boss. I'm a leader. I love being involved in things. I love telling people stories. I love conversations, and that has just always been who I am. I've grew up performing. I grew up singing in church and doing all of that. So I knew that doing mediums within the arts was always going to
Hmm.
be what my focus was going to be, whether it's music, whether it's producing, whether it's acting, whatever. But the arts has always been my main thing. And I would say in the last few years, I started to really use the arts to showcase my views and perspectives within like social impact and social change, because that's what's really important to me and my passion.
Yeah, and that's always been the case with you?
Yeah, it has actually. I feel like I've always been the type of person to want to advocate for other people and speak out and share my perspectives and views. And I've never shied away from those uncomfortable conversations that a lot of people
Yeah,
don't like having. That's just who I've always been since day one. But I think
yeah.
I've really stretched it and made it grow in the last few years.
Yeah, it's the people who, and I'm that way too. I've always
Hmm.
been an advocate for the underdog and
Hmm.
speaking for the voiceless. And it sounds like you've been that way too. And as a life coach, I often tell people, you are who you've always been.
Yes,
You
amen to
know, you
that.
just have to be able to know how to release it. And as time goes on, you
Hmm.
come more and more into yourself and realize, like, wait a minute, I've been this way since I was six.
Right.
I always, whether it
Absolutely.
was, helping someone tie their shoe, or, showing someone how to work the pencil sharpener, or
Right.
just, advocating for someone's juice box. Like, wait a minute, they didn't get one. That's not fair.
It's
You
so
know?
funny, but it's true. You
Yeah,
start to see those traits in yourself and in other people when they're younger. But
yeah,
it's funny to joke about the juice box, but I was definitely one of those people that, like, if someone didn't have, a
me
seat
too.
at the table, I'm like, well, let's find them a chair. Or somebody was sitting alone,
Yeah,
I'd invite them to eat lunch with me. Like, that's just been my personality,
yeah,
because I've always felt that I wanted people to feel included, and
yeah,
I never wanted anybody to feel ostracized or alienated in any way.
yeah.
So that my voice for standing up for marginalized groups has really stemmed from that.
Yeah, so we're women after, the same heart. I
Yes,
feel you on
yes.
that because I've been that way also. So when you talk about female empowerment,
Hmm.
that's huge. When you
Yes.
talk about Black Lives Matter, that's huge. When you
Hmm.
talk about
Hmm.
the LBGTG, excuse me, the letters, I don't want to say them all wrong. LGCDQ, you know what I mean.
Yes.
But when you say them, I always have to look because I don't want to offend anybody, and I wasn't looking. LGBTQ,
There you
because I don't
go.
want to just plus. Don't forget the plus. But when you do that, all of the groups are marginalized
Yeah.
and prejudged. And how are you able to deal with it? Because we're in this industry of cancel culture, and well, if someone makes a mistake, they don't allow people to grow from the mistake.
Hmm.
They don't allow people to maybe change their thoughts on things. They kind of want to pigeonhole and make people stay where they are and not grow. So
Yeah.
have you always been an advocate for the LBGTQ plus community, or for Black lives, and speaking up for Black lives, and for speaking up for women? Or is that something, like, I know that you're an advocate for people, but all of those groups, is that something that you jumped on board with early
Hmm.
to advocate for, or as you've grown, you started adding more to what you're doing?
No, that's a great question. I mean, I've always come, so there's a couple of things I can respond to in terms of that. I
Mm-hmm.
have always come from the place of, unless somebody's life is affecting my life, like, I think people should be able to live freely and be happy. And I
Mm-hmm.
just want people to be happy. So in terms of advocating for all of those groups, I would say yes. I've always
Mm-hmm.
been somebody, with the LGBTQ community. I've grown up around a lot of the people that identify within that community. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
their lifestyle and who they are has never, I've never viewed it as anything wrong. And I even grew up in the church, but I grew up a very progressive church. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was never taught that who they are is wrong. And so when I
Yeah.
was surrounded by people that had that view, it really took me aback, because I'm like, well, how is whoever they love affecting your life? And those are the type of conversations that I've had. In terms of Black Lives Matter, I mean, I'm a Black woman, so I'm always going to advocate for Black people, because
Yeah.
we are the voices that have not been heard so
Yeah.
much and so often in this country. And I think it's so important to hear Black lives and hear what we have to say. So I'm always pushing for that.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing that we said? I mean, in general, for marginalized groups,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like I've always been that type of person to stand up for
Yeah.
them.
So I'm going to read more about you. So Malynda was born and raised in sunny Santa Barbara, California, where she began singing at just 5 years old. At the age of 7, she learned to play the piano, and by 9, she was writing her own music, guys. Malynda's love for music and desire to make a difference in the world led her to be recognized many times for her work. She won Best Female Vocalist at Hollywood Music and Media Awards, Best Pop Music Video at the Indie Music Channel Awards. And she has been a headliner for NAMM show on the main stage. And for, what stage is that?
Sennheiser stage, yeah.
Stage. She opened for such artists as Tyrone Wells, Ernie Halter, Levi Crace, O-Town?
O-Town, yeah.
Okay, O-Town, and Smokey Robinson. She has been married for 9 years, and she talked about her baby girl. So you have been doing this for a mighty long time, Missy.
Yes, I've been in the game for a minute, and I'm proud of the accomplishments that I've had in my career. It's been a long journey, but I'm proud. Yeah, it took me a while to get to that point.
So what was your first professional break?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it was right after college when I got to do a residency in Las Vegas at Treasure Island. That was the first thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And, just being able to share my music with the world in that way, or in Vegas, having a small little 1-month residency out there was really, really a big opportunity.
Wow, that is a big opportunity to be in Vegas, and Treasure Island that's on the Strip too, right?
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
Not even one of the off-road casinos. So that's right there. That's huge.
Yeah.
So as far as activism, and when we speak about what's happening with Black folks, and the police, we definitely have to speak about that, and Black Lives Matter. And I'm so glad that I got a chance to go to DC twice.
Oh, wow.
To stand right there on, right there by the White House with the Black Lives Matter Plaza. And just about our precious Black lives being taken without even thought. Like, is that something, when you think about that, and, people are starting to say, oh, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Do you think that it's getting diluted with now just trying to run behind a cause? Or do you feel people are now sick and tired and they're just really, really passionate about it? Whereas before they might not oppose Black Lives Matter, or they wanted to keep their opinions to themselves. Why do you think now people are saying, you know what, no longer am I keeping it to myself?
I think the last year there was a really big, rise in awareness, really, and really an understanding for what BLM was about. And, what I try to say also is that people sometimes have issues with organizations. And I say, you know what, if you don't want to talk about the Black Lives Matter organization, take that out for a second. Just focus on the phrase. Do you believe that phrase? I've been vegan for 16 years, and I don't necessarily always agree with everything that PETA does, right? But I'm still a vegan for my own personal beliefs, because I believe in animal rights and all that stuff. So when you look at the phrase Black Lives Matter, do you agree with that? Yes or no? Let's just start there. It's the basics, right? And so those are the type of conversations that I try to have with people. And that's why I think that more people are starting to kind of get on board with not just the organization, but the movement as a whole. Because when you word it in that way, you can't really dispute it. And when you talk about the history of Black Americans in this country, you can't deny what they've been through. There's no, you just can't. If you're educated and you read and you follow history, you cannot deny the timeline of events that have happened in the Black community.
Right.
So I think that when people focus on Black Lives Matter, just the phrase, it's probably going to be easier to get people to be on board.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree with you, because a lot of people are so, you hear some people with Black Lives Matter, they're like, well, of course Black Lives Matter.
Right.
No, we have to say it, because if you look at history and you look at what's happening in today's world, then clearly somebody's don't think that we matter.
Right.
So we're yelling to the rooftops not to be anti anything else, but to tell you that we matter too.
Absolutely.
And so many times people think that if you love yourself and you're standing for yourself, whatever that is, then you're being anti someone else. And I think that's the problems that people have. Like, of course, Black Lives Matter, but white lives matter too. Well, we understand that, and we know that, and history has showed that you guys know that you matter.
Right?
So now, hello, we don't want to have to shout to the rooftops to say that, because that's something that should already be. But unfortunately, what's happening, it's down. Do you see progress being made in all of the areas that you're in, with people becoming vegans, veganism? Do you think that the LGBTQ plus don't. I'm trying. I always try to make sure.
You're doing great.
I don't want to offend anybody. But do you think that in all of the areas that you are so passionate about, do you see change? Like from, let's say, from last year to this year, do you see progress?
I do. I'm not going to lie. I do. I think even so, a couple of things with veganism, I do think more people are starting to realize how, even if you go vegan once or twice a week, that how much of an impact that actually does make, because veganism is also connected to climate change, and it, of course, is connected to animal rights, but it really does make a difference. And, this is the only earth that we have, so we want to make sure that we're taking care of it. And this is the only body that we have, so you want to make sure you're putting in good, clean stuff into your body. And in terms of like racial justice and social equity, again, I think the blessing in the pandemic was also that there was more awareness brought about, because you couldn't really hide from it because it was there in front of us, with seeing with the Breonna Taylor, seeing with George Floyd, in all of these situations that have happened in the last year. Being home really allowed people to have just two eyes on the situations, and there was no way to deny any of the things that have been happening. So I think awareness is clearly the first step. I think we have a long way to go in terms of policies and politically to get behind Black lives and seeing that social equity happen. But I'm happy to see that more people are willing to listen, and that they know that Black people at this point haven't been just talking to hear themselves talk. Like what we're saying is real, and it's been happening, It's been happening for a long time. And I think the positive of social media, the positive of technology, is that we are now all seeing it. So I do see change. I do think we have a long way to go. I hope I see it in my lifetime. I don't know if I will, but that's my hope.
Yeah. So is that one of the reasons that you decided to start your podcast, We Need to Talk? Because I love that title.
Thank you. So the podcast I actually started We Need to Talk as a live panel series at my church, because I wanted to bring more social justice conversations to my church community.
Oh, I love that.
Because I think, in the, movement of social justice, people of faith should actually be the ones leading the charge, because we are supposed to be standing up for marginalized people. So I brought those conversations to my church, and it really, really took off. And then I thought, this is a great title for a podcast. Podcasts are a big thing now. I love having conversations. And that's just kind of where it took off from there. And so I've been very lucky to have some great guests, and we have really deep and meaningful conversations about social justice, about religion, about politics, about culture, society, and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're in, like, with people, and as a life coach, and when I talk to people, I love to really push their gifts, right? Or have them recognize the gifts that they have, and tell people that they don't have to be one-dimensional, because God didn't make you one-dimensional. He gave you plenty of gifts. So oftentimes people say, you have to choose one. Which one? But you're an actress as well as a director. So you're an activist. That's just what you do. That's your passion. And then an actress and a director. So which came first, the actress or the director?
Well,
I
just started doing the directing and producing when I launched this project this year called Black Voices Heard. So that's very much a new thing. So definitely acting and singing, that all came before, because I grew up doing musical theater. My minor in college was in musical theater as well. And then I started doing more commercials and film. So definitely being in front of the camera is what I love. But now being behind it and producing this project and directing this project, it's been really, really fun to be behind the camera. So I'm hoping to do more of that.
Wonderful. I just want to acknowledge everyone. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Queen Honor. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining Sheen Talk. Thank you for joining this conversation. They're saying, I got some lyrics. Baby, you are one in a million. Baby girl, you rock my world. Okay. I'm going to say that's for you, Malynda. I'm going to say that's for you. I'm going to say that's for you. So as a director and being behind, because oftentimes I think that when you are a director of a project, you see obviously from a different lens. So when you are in front of the camera, you're seeing from that lens. But when you're a director, you see everything. So when you're a director and you're looking at something that a piece that you're directing, What is that one thing that you look for when you're directing anybody?
I would say, because again, this is just my first dab at this, being behind the camera, but since I've had so much experience in front of the camera, I think that that's why so many, you know, actresses and performers go behind the camera eventually, because they know how to make somebody look good in front of the camera because they've been there. So I think when I've done, you know, for this docuseries for Black Voices Heard, I make sure that everybody in front of the camera looks good, sounds great, and I'm presenting them in the best way possible because I would want to be presented in the best way possible, you know? So that's what's been fun about it, is being able to make sure the people in front of the camera look the best. And I've really enjoyed that.
And that's why I asked you that, because I had a feeling that you would say that. Because oftentimes, because it's so true. And it's just so, because if you're an actress and you know that you're doing this and someone else is directing you, then that actress who now becomes a director knows what to look for.
Yeah.
You know, and knows how to allow the actors to shine, because you have something vested in that. You know, you know what that's like. And I always think that the actors make the best directors because they see it from a totally different place.
Absolutely.
So I'm not even going to ask you to choose what you like doing the best. And, you know, because I know when you oftentimes when people do multiple things, they're like, well, which one would you choose? Because it seems like it's all a part of you and it's really working with you because you're really glowing.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to talk about that piece that's coming from you, because I feel it, and that good energy. I feel that. Where does that come from?
Honestly, my faith. I'm going to be honest. I think that just growing up in a very spiritually led household with parents that love and supported and put an emphasis on education, but, you know, keeping God at the center of everything that you do, that is really what has driven me. And I've always been very passionate about telling people stories, and if I have been given a platform and given a voice, to help amplify their voice. And that's in my small way kind of trying to live the way that Jesus lived, you know, because that's what Jesus did. And I think that in my attempts, you know, as a human, I'll never be able to live up, nobody will ever be able to live up to how Jesus was, but in my attempts, you know, that's how I'm trying to. So that's what really drives me, just wanting to my faith and just wanting to make a positive difference in the world.
Yeah, and you definitely are doing that. What would you tell someone who is quiet? They've been told to be quiet their whole lives, be seen and not heard. Every time they got ready to voice their opinion or stand up for themselves, they were silenced. Because let's be honest, there are a lot of parents out there that are like, okay, you're 8 or you're 10 or you're 15. You don't know what you're talking about. And they don't allow that child to use their voice. And when they grow up, they feel voiceless. And then they have people like you and I that have to speak for them because they feel like their voice doesn't matter. What would you tell that person right now who has been silenced and they don't think that their voice matters?
That it's never too late to find your voice. And I think that that's the important thing. I think that also as you get older, people may think like, oh, you know, me speaking out about something now, it's too late, or I don't even know what to say. But there's never a timeline for that type of thing. And I think also for the people that feel like they don't know what to say, I've said this a couple times, and I said this on my podcast too, start by saying that. Start by saying you don't know what to say, but you want to say something. And I think that kind of starts this domino effect of other people that will probably feel the same way, because I think, you know, everybody does have a platform now, but not everybody does know how to use it or what they should use it for. But if you want to start speaking out against things, but you don't know what to say, just start by saying that. I think that's the simplest advice I can give.
And that's powerful, because just say something. Just say, even if you say, people don't let me use my voice, or I feel silenced.
Absolutely.
Because then you'll have people rally around you to say, well, not here.
Yes.
What do you want to say?
Yes.
You know, it's almost like sometimes with people, you have to give them permission when they have been suppressed so much in different areas. You almost have to give people permission to be. And I loved your answer about, and I already knew that you were going to say your faith when you talked about church and when we were talking about that. And that's so important. Even, you know, when you're dealing with the entertainment industry and you're dealing with, everything that you're dealing with, and even the sadness that comes upon us when we see someone slain in the street, or when we
Yeah.
see injustices. You have to have something within that keeps that light shining from you. And I
Yeah.
see it,
Thank
and that
you.
you're welcome. And that's, people can often say, oh, I'm a Christian, or I'm this, or I'm that. But I'm just a firm believer that you should not have to say it. People should see it in you.
Amen.
And if
Amen.
you have to walk around saying it,
You're
then
probably doing
something's
something
wrong.
wrong. Yeah.
Right? So something is wrong. You
Right.
want somebody to say, what is that thing? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Because you want them to be able to see it. And I think that's, as believers, that's how we have to be.
Amen.
We have to be that example without saying anything. What's the misconception of a church girl? What do people think when they say you're in the church all the time? You're doing this in the church. What is the misconception?
Honestly, I'm so glad you asked this, because I feel like in recent years, the perception of people that call themselves Christians, there's always this negative connotation that has come along with it. And that it saddens me, because I see it. I get it. I understand. I do think there are people in this country that have hijacked that label and not been an example. So I think one of the misconceptions of people that are church girls or, Christians or whatever currently is that they're actually filled with hate, and they're full of judgment. And I've been blessed enough to be surrounded by loving, affirming, accepting Christians that truly are trying to make the world a better place. But I completely understand and empathize with the people that have been excommunicated from the church or walked away from God because of how people are. And so for those people, I try to say, don't take it out on God. You know what I mean? Like, don't take it out on God, because you can still love God and have a relationship with God and not worried about these people that were just showing you hate, because there's going to be those type of people regardless. But honestly, if you never set foot in a church, it doesn't matter, because your relationship is your relationship. God's with you wherever you go. So it doesn't matter if you go to church or not. So that's what that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that a lot of Christians are filled with hate, and I don't want that narrative to be set in stone. So that's why I try to lead by example. And with the church that I go to, it's a loving community, which I'm so blessed to be a part of. I'm also the worship leader there.
Oh, wow. Of course you are. Of course.
I know, just add it to the list, right?
Right, of course you are. I wouldn't expect anything less. So do you write some of the songs, or do you sing traditional songs, or do you write some of the songs? Are you able to extend that to what you're doing as a worship leader there?
Yeah, that's one of the things in the pandemic that I actually started doing. I started writing more original faith-based music, because that hadn't actually been, which is very surprising to a lot of people that know me, that actually hadn't been in my wheelhouse, and I hadn't actually taken a stab at that. And it came so naturally, but I think it was the right time for me to do it. Like, I don't think I was supposed to do it before. I think now was the time for me to write that type of music. So I have been, and it's been really cool. Everything's been online now, but I've been able to share my original music and my perspectives on faith through my music with my church community, which has been nice.
That's good. So what would you, in this interview, I know you've had tons of interviews, but in this interview, what do you want people to know about Malynda? And not even about what you do, not even the titles, not even the title mom. What do you want them to know about you?
That I believe in it. This is my entire ethos pretty much, is that everything starts with a conversation. And so we can't get to anything. We can't make any change. We can't make any progress. We can't make a decision or anything without having a conversation first. So I always tell people, my DMs are open. It may take me a day or two to get back to you, but if you want to talk about something, come talk to me. I'm an open book. I'm willing to hear different perspectives. If I don't agree with you, we don't agree. That's just part of life. But I never want to. Let me take a step back and give you an example. I have a lot of followers on Twitter, and I engage with people on Twitter often, and I get a lot of hate sometimes.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All the time. But
Why?
I like to engage with the people that give me hate, because they don't expect it. And when you show them kindness, it makes them take a step back and reflect on how they're being, because they think, you know, if somebody has a blue check to their name, they probably think that you're not going to respond to them or acknowledge them enough. But I've always been of the mindset that hurt people hurt people. So I want to get to the root of why you are coming at me with hate, and then let's have a conversation. And when you do that, they're shocked. But then when you show them kindness, it makes them realize, like, I didn't need to come at you like that. I didn't need to be mean to you for no reason. I don't know you. You're just expressing your views, you know? So that's what I want people to know, is that I'm very easy to talk to, and I'm not going to return what you may give to me if it's negative. I'm not going to return negativity back to you. That's not what I do. And I'm not the type of person, I don't like blocking people either. I've had a bunch of people, like, you know, I was not a Trump supporter, you know, that just wasn't my thing, but I have had Trump supporters on my Facebook page, and I've had conversations with them, and people have asked me, why aren't you blocking them? Why aren't you blocking them? Why aren't you blocking them? And I'm like, because I believe in the power of conversation. And if I can use my voice to try to get them to see a different perspective, or see why this is hurtful to a certain group, then I'm going to do that. Because if you block somebody, you are just cutting. Now, if somebody calls me names or talks about my child, that's a different conversation.
Right.
But,
Hello.
you know what I mean?
Hello.
But, you know, if they're expressing their views or they have misinformation, I'm willing to go that extra mile to say, hey, this is actually what the situation is. Have you considered this? And I think that people don't talk to each other enough. That's the thing. So I'm all about conversation. I will talk to anybody. I will have a conversation with anybody. If at the end of the conversation we don't agree, but at least we tried to communicate.
I love that. Well, I love that. Well, you're getting, I'm just surprised that you get a lot of hate.
Oh my gosh.
Tweets. I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean,
yes,
because I'm very, oh, did they miss Nene? Yeah.
Yeah, you did. She was before this, but it's on the page. I just did Nene right before this beautiful woman. But you can stay for Malynda. She's just as special.
Thank you.
But, so what are you
Twitter,
getting hate for?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you know.
Twitter is
rough. Whew. I mean, you know, people will, anytime I talk about Black Lives Matter, you have these trolls, you know, it's just people like that are opposed to social justice. Or if I call out Christians for not being for marginalized groups, I get, and it's so funny though, because like, it's the evangelical Christians, and I'm not going to put them all in a box because they're not all like that. But this is some of the people that I've gotten hate from on Twitter. Some of them would be evangelical Christians, and they've said some really awful things to me. And so I'll just simply ask them, like, would Jesus say what you just said? Half the time they walk away and they never respond.
Of
whatever.
Course,
but
of course.
Right. But that's, I always ask that. That's my number one question I ask. Would Jesus say what you just said? And they they never answer that. So, you know, and that's how I try to approach it. Like, if you call yourself a Christian, think about why. Also, what Jesus are you worshiping? Because he would not be for anything that you just said, you know? It's interesting, the comments that people make, and then
people are something.
They really are.
But you know what though? You know, can I be real with you, Malynda?
Yes.
So
please.
what bugs me is, say for instance, people didn't like make sure I say the letters right, LGBTQ plus, right? People didn't like the Black Lives Matter. People weren't for social justice. People weren't for female empowerment, right? So say if someone's like, I don't agree with any of that. The thing is, the people who say that you should be a part of this and you shouldn't discriminate and you shouldn't, the minute that someone doesn't agree with them, then they're ridiculed or ostracized. Like if someone says, I don't believe in Black Lives Matter, like that's their right to believe that. I don't believe in LGBTQ plus. That's their right. And I think people should have their right to believe what they want and not say you're crucifying me here, but then when you disagree, you get what I'm saying?
I totally get what you're saying.
On you.
Absolutely.
We should be able to have that conversation and agree to kind of disagree.
For sure. And I do see, you know, the quote unquote hypocrisy on both sides.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that there's a James Baldwin quote that says, we can agree to disagree as long as what you believe is not rooted in my oppression. And I think that is the basis of everything I believe. You know, if you cannot believe, let's say you don't believe in same-sex marriage. That's fine. That's your right. But I don't think that we as people should be voting on that. We should not get to choose
what someone else does.
What somebody else does. So in terms of you believe that, that's really fine. So for me, with my fight and what I say, when I'm trying to talk about Black Lives Matter and I'm trying to talk about LGBTQ community, it's really because I don't want other people to be making those decisions for other people. Yeah. I don't care what anybody else has to do with their life.
I agree.
You don't, and that's what the basis is. Those are things that we should never have to.
You should take someone's human rights away.
Yeah,
to believe what they want, or
absolutely. And I think that's always has been what it's come down to me. We should not vote on who loves, or vote what people can do with their bodies, or vote who people are going to make. Like, I've never understood that. Believe what you want.
My husband's in the comments saying love over hate, love wins. That's my husband in the comments.
It's true. Amen. Good husband. Good husband.
Absolutely. But I just think that if we can, it's really simple. Respect other people's opinions and views, and stand up for people who are marginalized, and just be the best people that we can be, as just human beings. And I think people are missing that. Just being a good human being. Like, absolutely. I think that's so underrated.
It really is. It is. It's just person. It's, to me, it costs nothing to just mind your own business, one. Right. But also just to stay hydrated. Right. But also just to let people live their lives, I just don't think, unless somebody's lifestyle or whatever is affecting your life personally, leave them alone. Just leave them alone and let them live. Yeah.
Yeah, because then when they're talking about, we can go deeper when you're talking about abortion and someone else choosing what to do with this woman's body here. There's so many different things that, that are being voted upon with people, that we can go on and on and on and on. There's different things, but I love what you're doing. I love what you're standing for.
Thank you.
With female empowerment, the LGBTQ plus rights, veganism, Black Lives Matter. We talked about all of that and then the movement, but I want, before we end, to talk more about Black Voices Heard.
Yeah.
And is this something that people can join, or they can just listen to? Let's talk about that as we come to a close.
Absolutely. So I launched this photo and video docuseries that I've been directing and producing. We launched it in January, and it's collaboration. I have a friend of mine who's a photographer. His name's Mosi, that I collaborated with to create this project. And it's basically, if you know what Humans of New York is, it's basically that, but for Black Americans. And the reason that I created this is because, one, a lot of Black Americans don't get the opportunity to tell their stories from their perspective. I think when you see a lot of Black stories, Black perspectives, it's being told, one, through the lens of somebody else, or two, it's distorted in some way. So I think seeing the authentic, raw humanity of the Black community is a beautiful thing, and we don't get to see that enough. But we also just don't get to hear personal stories of what it's like to be Black in America. And I wanted to give and create a platform for Black Americans to do that. So you can, it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, and it's on Facebook, just at Black Voices Heard Project. Right now, we're just based in LA, but the goal is to travel the country and interview and talk to as many Black Americans as possible, because we're not a monolith and we all have different experiences, and that's what I really want to put a spotlight on.
So make sure you come back around and talk to me, because I got a lot to say.
Yes. Are you based? Where are you based?
I'm in Maryland, though. I'm not,
okay.
I'm not where
well,
you are.
When we get to Maryland, I'm going to hit you up.
When you head this way, I'll be waiting on the corner.
Yes.
Like, they're coming. So let's tell the people how they can listen to your podcast. We need to talk.
Yes, it's hashtag We Need to Talk, and it's available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And our next season's coming up on Monday, May 17th. So it's going to be great. Some really, really incredible guests lined up.
Wonderful. This is Malynda, everyone. Make sure you follow her. Is it at Malynda Hale? I just
Yes,
want to
at
make sure.
Malynda Hale everywhere. It's very, very simple.
Everywhere. It's pinned right here. I just wanted to confirm that that was right. That's right, right?
Yes,
What you're
yes,
saying?
correct.
Everybody, please support. Everyone's asking for Nene. She left. We're on to the next. You can go back and look at Nene. She is equally as beautiful and as important.
Oh,
But Nene
thank
was
you.
great. Yeah, absolutely. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
To be a part of this conversation at Sheen Talk. And I just want you, we need you, you know, and I really want to honor you in that way. You're welcome. We need you. We need voices like yours that stand up for the marginalized, because God has given you that gift. And everybody is not called to do it, but you are. So I honor that and I thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And we just make sure we really enjoyed your program. Blessings to you both. She ain't too busy. Oh, be quiet. Positivity.
Always some
Positivity
mean comments. Yeah.
You said it. You said it. You
always,
said that.
always.
Wow. But she's a beautiful woman doing amazing things. And I love that you're multifaceted in many areas. But keep doing what you're doing. Most of all, keep shining, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's great talking with you.
Nice talking to you. I'm Kendell Lenice. This is Sheen Talk. Make sure you follow Malynda Hale on IG. And where can you be reached other platforms?
It's Malynda Hale, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
I'm just making sure there was no comment, no question. All right. Thank you, Malynda.
Okay.